Hey, everybody, it is Scott Steen with WinnersandWhiners.com coming to you with the Tuesday edition of Winners and Whiners Radio. I'm the lead handicapper over at WinnersandWhiners.com, and I am joined by my partner, the one and only Scott Reichel. Scott's the senior handicapper at Winners and Whiners. Scott, happy Tuesday. How are you?
Doing pretty well as far as I'm concerned. There were no hockey games of any kind yesterday. I don't know what you're talking about. Other than that, yeah, pretty good day. Can't complain. Really, I'd say quiet sports day. The Islanders got killed, which, happens, but the Yankees didn't play. There was no basketball on. I mean, hopefully you like baseball because there wasn't really much else on.
No NBA for the first time since Christmas, roughly?
Feels that way.
I mean, that may be right.
Now I'm thinking All-Star break.
Except for the All-Star break, yeah, that's it. And even then you had the skills and the whatever, so. All right, so there you go. It was a slow day, like and you, of course, you and I are both Islanders fans, and that did not work out at all today for Islanders fans. So we're going to touch on all of that, plus preview everything that's coming up today, tonight, whatever. Of course, it is Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour, and we will give you the winners. Nothing but winners, everybody. And, of course, WinnersandWhiners.com. If you're not familiar, WinnersandWhiners.com is the #1 site in the free world for predictive sports analysis. Each day, people from over 150 countries stop by and check out the latest updates on weather, injuries, and line movement before making their plays. And all that information over there is at WinnersandWhiners.com. Every game, every day, full previews and predictions. And the best part is it is always free. So, with that being said, Scott, like I said, we did have a couple of games yesterday. And, of course, if we have games, we have bad breaks. If we have bad breaks, somebody's going to feel bad. And you know that feeling, that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach when you've got the winner, you've got it in hand, and then all of a sudden, that's why they call it gambling, folks. Nothing left to do but tear up that ticket and call the cops. All right, Scott, there were some real thefts last night, and we'll start, of course, in the MLB Game 1. Mets, Braves. Scott, perhaps you've heard of this young fella, Jacob deGrom. He's pretty good. But if you had the Braves team total under 1.5, you have deGrom on the mound. That seems like kind of a sucker bet, Scott. Now, it is a 7-inning game, but 1.5, that's pretty low. But deGrom, he has a way of making your dreams come true for under bettors. He allowed 0 runs through 5 innings. Got pulled after 70 pitches, Scott. 70 pitches. They are being ultra careful with him. Mets bullpen came in. Man on first. Home run. 4-2 Mets. If you had the under 5, if you had the team total under 1.5 for the Braves, those went bye-bye in one swing of the bat, and nothing left for you to do but call the cops.
And the second one was in baseball with another bad beat on an under. If you had the Reds and Twins under 9.5, you were in pretty good shape. 6 runs after 9 innings. So you'd assume that's
not another one of these.
But it's 3-3. So of course you got to go to extras.
Yeah.
The Reds scored 2 in the 10th, and you think to yourself, that's not bad.
We're good.
What you do is avoid Minnesota scoring 2 in the bottom of the 10th.
Yeah.
And they scored 2 in the bottom of the 10th, and the game went over. So you hate to see it, especially when both teams combined for no runs over the final 5 innings of pre-extra innings baseball, and then they combined for 4 runs in the 10th. Not fun for unders bettors.
Oh, unders bettors hate 2021. It is official. Scott, we're going to finish it up with maybe a first for the Call the Cops segment. We're going to talk a little college baseball. As you know, the College World Series is going on up there in Omaha. And one of the favorites, Scott, Vanderbilt, with their 1-2 punch. They had number 1 on the mound, Leiter, likely to be the number 1 draft pick in the upcoming MLB draft. Big favorite, -240, was Vanderbilt over NC State. Yes, that's right. The same NC State that knocked out Arkansas 2 straight games after losing the first one 21-1. But They didn't need nearly that many. NC State, despite Leiter having a complete game with 15 strikeouts, still gave up the dinger, Scott. They gave up one dinger, and that was one dinger too many, as North Carolina State beats Vanderbilt 1-0. If you had the Vandies, if you had the Commodores there with Leiter on the mound, you just couldn't get any offense going. And maybe you should perhaps call the hitting coach, but while you're doing that, you should call the cops as well, because that was.
Well, it's good to know that he hasn't even joined the MLB yet, and he's already on his way to becoming DeGrom. He's got the Grum level run support.
Yep, absolutely. He would fit right into that Mets rotation. So, Scott, now for the good news. These are kind of the opposite of call the cops. These are the nice, easy victories. You didn't have to sweat it. You didn't have to get that heart rate up. You didn't have to worry about it. You could just sit back, relax in your easy chair because you had a sure thing. Scott, these are the rocking chair wins.
So the first one for the rocking chair is going to be in hockey between the Lightning and the Islanders. If you had the Lightning on the money line or on the puck line or even the minus 7.5 goals, you had a nice easy winner there. Lightning scored in the first minute, and that kind of summed up how the game was going to go for the Islanders. 3 in the first, 2 in the second, 3 in the third. Lightning won 8-0. If you really want to talk about a great trend, the Tampa Bay Lightning, since the start of the 2020 playoffs, are 12-0 after a loss. They have not lost back-to-back games in the last 2 years of the playoffs.
That's pretty impressive, and it's also a pretty good way to win yourself a Stanley Cup.
Yep.
Scott, moving back to baseball, if you had the Texas Rangers plus 120 against the Oakland Athletics, it didn't take you long to find out you were in really good shape, as the Rangers scored 5 in the first, 3 in the sixth, after the A's had put up a couple of runs to make it at least interesting there at 5-2. Pretty much put it away in the bottom of the sixth, making it 8-2. Finished it off at 8-3. If you had the Rangers plus 120, that was a no sweat win, and you were in the rocking chair.
And looking at the last rocking chair, you had the other game of the doubleheader between the Braves and the Mets. And if you had the under 7, you were doing pretty well. No score in the game until the Braves scored 1 in the top of the 5th. And that was it. 1-0 final. Not really much else to add. And if you had the under, never in doubt.
No extra innings, no shenanigans, nothing of the sort. Just a nice 1-0 victory. So very good indeed. So, Scott, a lot going on in the world of sports. We'll start with a story from the NFL. We got a couple from the NFL, Scott. You can tell it's getting close to that time, getting close to the OTAs and whatnot. So, the Raiders defensive lineman yesterday, Carl Nassib, perhaps you saw this, announced that he was gay, being the first active NFL player to come out while he was still on a roster. Scott, it was a big deal when Michael Sam did it about 10 years ago. He never really got a chance to play in the NFL, quite possibly because of that, because he was the reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year. So I'm going to say it was a big deal 10 years ago, Scott. 10 years later, roughly, is it still a big deal?
I can't believe Michael Sam was 10 years ago.
It wasn't that long. I'm going to look it up while you give me your initial thoughts.
You definitely could be right there, but I thought it was around like 7, but it could be either way. So Nassib's been around for a while. I still remember him when he was in college. I thought he was a pretty good defensive, just kind of a 3-4 linebacker, defensive lineman, however you want to really describe his position. But as a whole, I think he's pretty good. And if you want to talk about the actual significance of the story, there's really 2 ways to look at it. You can talk about the fact that, A, it's a big deal because there haven't been many gay football players in the NFL, or at least that have come out publicly.
There you go.
And B, you can say it's not a big deal because with the advancement that we've had as a society for gay rights and everything like that over the last couple of, decades, it's less, I don't want to say taboo to be publicly gay, but people are more comfortable admitting that fact to people. Is that a fair statement?
I think it is. I think it is, Scott. By the way, Michael Sam was drafted in 2008, so we're kind of both right. It wasn't 10 years ago; it was 8 years ago. So,
Wait, you said 2008?
mm-hmm.
That was 13 years ago.
Or should be 2014. Sorry, 8 years ago.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Okay, so the point is though, Sam never was really on a roster. I think he ended up in the Canadian Football League for a little while, but that didn't work out. But you look at Nassib's numbers. I still remember him on Hard Knocks a couple of years ago. He was doing the thing about compound interest, and I was giving people financial advice. So I actually remember his spot on the show, and I thought he was pretty funny. But as a whole, he's fine. I remember him at Penn State, good third-round draft pick. Turned out to be a pretty solid defensive player. I can't say that he's a superstar or anything like that, but I don't think it should have any impact. And then again, you never know how his teammates feel about it because some of them might have grown up in a certain environment that might not have been as, I'd say, tolerant
Sure.
of gay people, but I don't have an issue with it. And I feel like based on today's society, at some point we're going to reach a point where an athlete announcing he's gay isn't even a news story anymore. I don't know how long away that's going to be, but at some point that's going to end up being the case.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that's happened as far as gay rights since Michael Sam was the Obergefell decision, where they basically legalized gay marriage in all 50 states from the Supreme Court. And that was, I believe, 2015. So that represents a sea change, because it used to be in the 2004 election, Scott. It was actually a wedge issue that drove Republicans to the polls to vote against to put in place state laws that prohibited gay marriage. So it wasn't too long ago, like you said, just a few cycles ago, that was used as a divisive measure. And I think there's still a good percentage of the population that does care. Now, whether these people are the ones that are going to watch professional football, whether they're going to organize boycotts, that's one part of the equation. The other part is how he is accepted in the locker room. Locker room, pretty manly man place. Scott, a lot of slurs towards women get kind of tossed around.
Of course, he should be accepted, but you do have to wonder about the background of some players. If they grew up maybe being intolerant, they might be uncomfortable, despite how, I'd say, upsetting that is to hear.
Well, and I would go so far just to slightly defend those players. It's not necessarily growing up intolerant. It's just the way that your belief system works.
And that, I think some of that has to do with the parents and how they
feel.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I'm not blaming the athletes. I'm just saying that their belief system, as you said,
sure,
might not be up to date in comparison to what's, I'd say,
how society is trending. Or
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I don't understand why this is a deal. I just don't understand all these people that have their lives in such perfect shape that they possibly care about some person they've never met, about who that person sleeps with. I don't get it.
I personally don't care. It's not like I'm going to root against the Raiders because they have a gay player on the team. That's just ridiculous. But
I want to be on the record saying I hated the Raiders long before this. This has absolutely no impact on how I feel about the Raiders.
Well, we're going to get to your team in a minute because your team had its own news story.
Oh, yes.
But as a whole, good for him. That's really all I got to say.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the hope lies with your generation and then your kids ultimately, because I know that generation, your generation, is a lot more tolerant. You're tolerant both racially and as far as sexual orientation goes. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's no longer, or it's becoming, again, we're changing as a society. It's becoming less and less of a deal.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, there were still laws in the books against interracial marriages. So, we haven't come a long ways, and we have come a long ways in certain aspects. So, and that's probably as close to social commentary as Scott and I are ever going to get. So, yeah. But it is a relevant story, and it does perhaps impact the Raiders and the Raiders locker room. Is something to keep an eye on. I can't believe in this day and age that it is going to make a difference. He's going to be ostracized or cut or, anything like that. So, and Scott, on the plus side, At least he wasn't carrying an Uzi in his bag.
I'll let you have the floor on that one.
Well, there's not much to say. If you followed the sporting news yesterday, you found out that Kansas City Chiefs linebacker / edge rusher Frank Clark was arrested in Los Angeles in his Lambo SUV. Scott, not only did I not own a Lambo SUV, I'm not sure I've ever seen one. Have you ever seen one?
I wasn't aware that if you're going to get an SUV, it would be by Lambo. I feel you can just get a Cadillac or something that specializes in those type of vehicles.
Right.
A Lambo SUV. Really?
What would be your guess for a price for a Lambo SUV?
See, I don't know if his was, with all of the decals and everything.
It probably wasn't a base model. Let's just put it out there.
Let's put it that way. I'm assuming I'll guess base model price just to make it whatever.
Okay.
105.
Can I interest you in $218,000, Scott?
I mean, if you're offering me $280,000, I'm going to take it.
That is for the base model.
Okay. So I was guessing 105. Sure.
Yeah. So he gets pulled over, and as the way they put it, a routine traffic stop. Now, draw your own conclusions there. Black man in Los Angeles driving a Lambo SUV. Is it random? Is it routine? Okay.
It's as random as a security thing at the airport.
I'm not going to pass any judgments on how the LAPD may or may not have come to the decision to pull over Frank Clark, because they don't mention any other traffic. They don't mention he was pulled over for speeding, he was weaving, nothing like that.
They don't say anything,
Nope.
And the only thing is that they found something in the bag, even though they didn't have a warrant to search his stuff, but they saw something apparently.
Yep. They saw the tip of an Uzi sticking out of a bag. So, couple things here, Scott. First of all, if you have an Uzi in a bag, can you not just zip up the bag?
I've seen NFL players try to carry a gun through the airport, so I've seen dumber things.
Now, of course, Frank Clark has a story, and his story is the gun belongs to a member of his security team. Okay.
I hope the security team guy has a permit.
I'm sure he probably does, but I don't think he was with him in the car.
Yeah, so I don't think that applies.
So we'll see what happens. But, Scott, here's the cynical question. Now, as a Chiefs fan, I see this as an opportunity. Remember the old saying back in the 80s and 90s, Scott, there's no problems, there's only opportunities?
Yes.
Remember that? Okay.
I was a little bit before my time, but I like the saying.
Well, this is an opportunity because did you know, my friend, that Frank Clark has the biggest 2021 cap hit of any non-quarterback in the NFL? Would that have been your guess if I'd have told you to pick a player? Who would you have guessed?
If I had to pick any player that was not a quarterback?
Uh-huh.
That's a very, very good question. I really got no idea.
Okay.
I don't even know who you'd probably think.
Well, I'll give you some possibilities here, some guys that are right behind
I
you.
would have said a guy like J.J. Watt, but he just signed a new contract. So
you got DeMarcus Lawrence, Fletcher Cox, Von Miller. You're like, okay, I could kind of see that. But Frank Clark has the seventh biggest cap hit of the 2021 season. $25 million goes against the Chiefs cap. So
that's if they keep him on the roster.
Here's what I'm thinking. Because you can go after that money too, because you can terminate that contract because of the morals clause. Is that a good thing to do, Scott? Frank Clark was productive in 19. He was less productive last year. He certainly didn't justify that kind of a salary. I think he was a couple notches above a replacement player, if you borrow a baseball term. But those guys are easy to find that are a couple notches better than a replacement player. He's being paid like an elite pass rusher, and he is, or at least was not in 2020, an elite pass rusher. Is this an opportunity for the Chiefs, Scott?
I think it has to be. I mean, you're paying Mahomes $500 million. Might as well save some cap one way or another.
they're not paying it all this year.
You know what I'm saying, though? Like,
Right.
your window's now, and when you have that much salary tied up to a quarterback for a long period of time, you're going to have to cut corners elsewhere. You saw them cut Fisher on the offensive line. They cut a couple of options there. And I don't know what other replacements are on the market for defensive line, especially after the draft, because, you have to kind of get creative with it. But they're definitely not going to keep him if he ends up getting suspended for X amount of games. Now, of course, the NFL disciplinary committee or whoever makes the decisions, you don't know what the decision is going to be half the time. They make it up. They'll suspend you 4 games for steroids and then let you play through a domestic violence issue. So I don't really know what the grounds are for proper suspension lengths and whatever. But I think we'd agree that with that much money that could be taken off the books, the Chiefs are going to easily take that money off the books.
That would be my play. Now, a couple of questions here. First of all, from a sports betting standpoint, does all this impact the Chiefs' win total at all?
I think it might if you think that Frank Clark's an elite defensive end, because we know the Kansas City's offense is very good. There's no secret around that. We know that this offense is the best offense in the league. However, the issue that you run into with Kansas City is that at times the defense is not very good. And if you lose your best pass rusher and you don't replace him with anybody, I think you got to assume that he might be worth maybe a win or two. If you think that there are a couple of games on the schedule where you're going to see some high-scoring games, and you're worried about not being able to pressure the quarterback.
Well, okay, for starters, he's not their best pass rusher. That would be Chris Jones.
Okay, I'm okay. I'm the second best. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, so the Chiefs. They drafted a linebacker this year. I just think this is an opportunity to save that money. I think they have to do it. Now, my other question is, do you think?
I don't know what you do with that money though, but you can figure something out, I guess.
Sure.
Anybody on the market?
Well, there's going to be guys available when the cuts start. So
That's true.
When the Turk visits, there's going to be guys available. You can work out a deal for guys that may or may not make the roster. Maybe they're not positioned. Maybe they've got somebody that's going to replace them on the roster. There's always veterans available in those situations. But Scott, is this could it be construed as a PR problem with the Chiefs? It's pretty sensitive times from a racial standpoint. Is there any way this jumps up to bite them? Is there any kind of a racism situation that could possibly be a problem for KC?
Wait, you're talking about the Chiefs cutting him?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you talking about the police?
No, I'm talking about the Chiefs cutting him.
No, not at all. I think that it depends on how much you actually factor in PR, because the Cowboys don't, Seattle doesn't, a lot of teams in the league don't. But if you already want to say that we can't handle this distraction in the room, I think that's how you got to look at it. You can't view it from a race perspective. You got to view it from the fact that this team's trying to compete for a title, and now you have a distraction and an uncertainty with it, which is you don't know when he's going to get suspended and when he's not going to get suspended. So if you want to avoid all uncertainty and focus solely on the season and the problem at hand, which is winning a Super Bowl, then I don't think it has to do with racism at all. I just think it has to do with the fact that you want to move on and you think that this guy's more of a distraction than he is a production guy.
No, and I agree with that. I'm just saying, could it be perceived that way? No, I totally agree with you. It's not obviously not a racist situation. It's a classist thing, because there's no question there's unequal treatment in the NFL. If this is a undrafted free agent that's trying to make the team as a defensive end, he's gone. If it's Pat Mahomes, not a chance he's cut. So Frank Clark is kind of in that uncomfortable middle zone where he makes a lot of money, makes more money than his production. So
well, you can compare it to Houston. If it was not Deshaun Watson, if it was a second string offensive lineman, you wouldn't have heard about him because he wouldn't be on a team right now.
Nope.
Which makes sense, of course, because your goal is to win. And if you prioritize winning over everything else, then of course Watson's still there because they know how talented he is, but there is unfair treatment. And it's the superstar treatment, which makes perfect sense.
Does winning supersede everything, Scott?
It does for people that are trying to collect paychecks. Your goal in a competitive game, which is sports, is to win. And if you are going to prioritize winning because that's what's going to keep paying your bills and that's what's going to prevent you from getting fired, people will prioritize winning over PR stuff. That's just the way it is.
Okay, but
I think you'd agree that
if you're keeping an alleged rapist on your team, is that a little bit beyond just a PR problem?
It's a PR problem, but you also have to follow the innocent until proven guilty type of philosophy.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough, and
I think that if Deshaun Watson was found guilty, he would be gone.
And it's not a criminal situation with Deshaun Watson, and we want to emphasize that there have been no official criminal charges brought. It's all from a civil standpoint right now. So it's part of the reason that it's taking so long to play out, and part of the reason why he's, still walking around a free man. And of course, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and it certainly wouldn't be the first time that a member of the fairer sex has perhaps fabricated a relationship to take advantage of that athlete.
Could be when you get into numbers that are above 15 to 30.
That's obviously the problem, is the sheer numbers involved. But you and I both agree, guilty, innocent, no proof, lots of proof, 17-1, whatever it is. If it's not Deshaun Watson, if it's Jimmy Bob Jackson from Alcorn State trying to make the club as a third string tackle, he's gone.
Yep.
He's never getting another sniff in the NFL. He's gone. He's blackballed. He's out.
I'm saying even if that's not right, that you get superstar treatment, your goal for most of these people is to win, and that's the only way that they're graded. So I'm not surprised.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And, obviously we could do hours on whether that's right or not. And that's not a question we're going to get into today.
It's not about being morally right. It's just about, I think that's factual. Just looking at how these guys are.
Yes, that's what, but, is there a, I don't want to get into it.
I'm not getting into it. There's a problem with it, but I think we agree that that's kind of the main way that people get graded in front offices, is whether or not you win.
Of course.
So, yeah, there you go.
So, Ozzie Newsome and the Ravens, they had no problem keeping Ray Rice off the roster.
Well, forget about Ray Rice. You can talk about Ray Lewis back in the day.
Well, that's true. That's true too. Although, again, he was exonerated.
No, correct. But I'm saying at the time, you can make an argument if that was his third string wide receiver, you wouldn't have had to wait for him to be exonerated. He was gone. Yeah.
If it's Ray Johnson, see, you wouldn't want to be you. So, all right, very good. So I'm sure we'll talk about that as it progresses. We'll see what's going on with both the Frank Clark situation and the Deshaun Watson situation. And, if it comes out that it was somebody else's, I know he's still responsible for it, but it certainly gives him a nice out.
He'll get suspended anyway.
He's definitely going to get suspended anyway. No question about it.
But to answer one question that we talked about before, it does not impact my thoughts on the win total that much.
Okay.
Because I like the Chiefs over anyway.
Okay.
Look at any team they play. You really feel good about their odds of losing?
No, they're going to be favorites in almost every game.
Pretty much every game. The one exception I think would be maybe on the road against Tampa, maybe if they would play.
Well, no, they've got
maybe on the road against Buffalo.
That's the one that I'm looking at.
They don't play Tampa, right?
They do not play Tampa. They played Tampa. So they played Tampa last year.
Yeah, on the road against. Well, they played Tampa twice last year, but yes, in the regular season, at Buffalo would be the only spot they'd be an underdog, assuming Mahomes is healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. They are going to Baltimore as well.
Oh yeah, because Baltimore always gives them a serious run for their money.
So they're home against Buffalo.
Okay.
They are home against Green Bay.
They're home for all those games. They'll be favored.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. They're home for the Steelers.
Steelers are going to be terrible, but yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I'm just looking at anything remotely. But they go to Philly. They're not going to be dogs there.
We're looking at a spot where Kansas City could go 15-2, and you'd be surprised they lost 2 games.
I know I am.
So
it's amazing as Kansas City Chiefs fans how quickly we got spoiled from we're never winning anything. Something always happens. We're cursed. It's terrible. We haven't been in 50 years to how could we possibly lose a game? That's not right.
Pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely true. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. So Scott, in what, a month or so, just about a month from now.
Assuming that there aren't any more delays, yes, about a month.
It's going to be the Olympic Games, the 2020 Olympics, of course, being held in 2021. We managed to avoid the topic, Scott. Every time we do rehearsal, about 3 times a week, I go, we're going to talk about the Olympics today and how they should be canceled. And we always came up with other topics. We never really got to it. It looks like come hell or high water, they're having those Olympics, Scott. So God bless you, Tokyo. We'll see how that works out. But big news for Team USA today, that the bad news is Steph Curry said he would not be joining Team USA. The good news is just about everybody else is. Adebayo, Harden, Durant, Draymond Green, Bradley Beal, Tatum, Booker, Damian Lillard. Man, that's a nice list, Scott. Does that surprise you that they were able to get that kind of buy-in from that level of superstar, especially considering they're just coming off, well, a weird season and then a short season with 2 seasons with short rest periods. Now they're going to play all summer and then come back for the NBA regular season in a season that's been filled with a lot of hammies, Scott. A lot of injuries that would appear to be caused by not being in tip-top game condition, just not having recovery time.
Yeah, well, that's kind of I'm going to take it kind of athlete by athlete on this one. There's some that don't surprise me. I mean, Draymond didn't make the playoffs, so it doesn't surprise me. Beal lost in the first round. Why not? Adebayo got swept. Doesn't surprise me. Tatum lost early, and Lillard lost early. So you can talk about those guys and say, yes, they ended up having a short offseason to turn around, but they have also been sitting for about a month. That definitely helps. The ones that surprised me, there are 3. Harden surprised me.
Yep.
Durant surprised me.
Yep.
And Booker surprised me.
Okay.
And those 3 surprised me because Durant was injured throughout most of the year. Yes, I know he was healthy in the playoffs, but I was kind of surprised that he wouldn't want to just take an off season off and try to make sure he's fully ready. But then again, it's once every 4 years. So you want to actually win a gold medal. You want to have yourself a time to shine. And LeBron's not going to be there. So it might be Durant's team. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's legit. Looking at the team of those guys, I would say Durant would be the leader there, right?
That's what I'm saying. So if you want to talk about a legacy type of thing, usually LeBron was going to be the Olympics guy, or you had Kobe in 2008 back in China when they ended up winning that. Durant could have his stamp on being the best player on an Olympic gold medal team, so that kind of doesn't surprise me as much. But it's most of the injuries. Harden, I don't know about the hamstring because I don't know how long it's going to take for him to get back to full strength, but I'm assuming based on how he played during the series, probably a month tops, so he should be fine. Booker, I don't know. Because I really believe if they make it to the NBA Finals, I just can't see him quickly turning around and playing the Olympics as well. Maybe he can, but that's a lot of mileage. You don't think so?
Oh, yeah, because the last day for the NBA Finals, the last possible day is July 22nd.
And when would the Olympics be started?
I'm looking it up right now because I thought it was around the last week in July.
As I'm saying, so you play a 72-game.
They literally start the day after the NBA finals are over. They start the 23rd of July.
That's, of course, assuming the finals go 7. But the point is that
right, and assuming basketball kicks off. I don't know exactly where the schedule is for basketball.
Correct, but the point is that you have Booker, who's played 72 games in the regular season. I don't believe he was injured for that many games. I think he played the majority. They're in the playoffs. They're making a serious run. And now he's also supposed to do the Olympics. I mean, props to him for going through it. But I am a little bit surprised that Booker, who's been playing so much basketball for the last couple of months, was just one of the first people to commit. I give him props for it. That just surprised me.
Yep, agreed. They and of course basketball is one of those ones where they play a lot of games, so it's something that's going to start relatively soon. I'm trying to see if we've got
yeah, you play a lot of games, but there's also Team USA and you're against Nigeria half the time and you're just up by 50 after 3 quarters.
Are you excited about 3-on-3 basketball, Scott?
I know that they've tried internationally. It's worked out pretty well, but Olympics are always interesting for me because I try to watch them, but I never actually know the scheduling when it comes to what events are on.
Right.
Like I'll follow every now and then. I used to always follow swimming because you had Michael Phelps involved, and now I don't really know what's going on there because Lochte didn't qualify, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun. I'll be watching tennis. I'll be watching basketball. I'll probably be betting basketball. I remember last year, I'm pretty sure I gave out some, not last year, but a couple years ago, I might have given out a FIBA line or two, or like a women's. I don't exactly remember, but I might be giving out some Olympics lines there for basketball.
Okay. Very good. And by the way, for the record, the first basketball game, again, I don't know whether the USA is involved. I don't know what their schedule is, but the first basketball game, the opening games of the tournament, are on Sunday the 25th. So Thursday night is Game 7 of the NBA Finals, if it goes 7, obviously.
And if Booker's involved.
Well, it doesn't matter whether Booker's involved. The date's going to be the same whether Booker's involved or not.
Well, all the players we mentioned aren't potentially still alive for the finals besides Booker.
Correct. So
that's why I was bringing it up.
He would be the one that would be affected. So he would have 3 days to get there and get ready to play, and that includes depending on where you fly from, 13, 14-hour flight to Tokyo, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Not to mention the potential hangover for the championship parade.
Yeah, no kidding. So, all right.
Then again, that's only 8 guys. So, of course, you have some college players who might end up there, but you still might have a couple of guys who commit at the last minute.
Can anybody beat them, Scott?
No. I think if you want to talk about a team that has the best shot, I would probably say Serbia. In reality, are they going to win? No.
Is that the Oklahoma voting Republican for president kind of bet? Just laying the number, whatever it is, on USA to win gold?
With the fact that you have Harden, Durant, and Beal and all these guys with Lillard, yeah, they're going to win. Okay. But if you want to go for a long shot or a team that might upset them, I would go Serbia. But that's pretty much it.
I'm just trying to think of any other players, because there are some good European players, obviously, but they're not from the same country.
Yeah, Brazil's always been okay, but
right.
I remember a lot of their core is kind of older now. Spain is kind of a similar way.
Right. Do you think is Jokic going to play?
I'm pretty sure Jokic is playing for Serbia. That's why.
Is he going to play for him? Has he committed?
I think he is. I'm not fully sure.
Okay.
But I think they have them. They have him. They have Valanciunas. They have Tadosic, who was that former point guard for the Clippers for a little while. But yeah, they got some pieces. So I think they can give it a shot. But I mean, a lot of the teams that you remember with Germany and Argentina, Ginobili's not walking through that door for Argentina.
No, and Vlade Divac isn't going to be there for Yugoslavia either.
Yeah, and Yugoslavia is not going to be around either.
Yugoslavia will not. I don't know what's going to happen for sure, but I do know one team that will not be there. I don't think they're going to compete in anything, Scott.
I don't think they will either.
All right, very good. All right, guys, as a quick reminder, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. I've caught up on a couple of things there. Is there a number? I mean, would you be comfortable laying minus 3,000 on the USA to win the gold medal?
3,000, no. But I think if it was anywhere less than, I'd say, I think 5-1. I think minus 500 is my ceiling.
Minus 500?
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck.
You're not going to get it. I'm just saying that would be my ceiling.
Okay. All right. Good enough. So you'll be watching a lot of games just for the interest of it.
I'll bet the spreads.
Very good. Very good. Favorite Olympic sport, Scott, in the summer?
In the summer?
Yeah.
Tennis.
Tennis?
I think tennis is fantastic.
Is it sexist to say beach volleyball?
No. I know that you used to have that one American group that won every year, but I'm pretty sure they retired already.
Misty May Trainer and Carrie Walsh.
Yes. Well done.
I wonder what information is no longer in my head since that is there.
All I know is they used to win every single year, and I think both of them retired.
Yep, I think you're absolutely right. So it's that, you know, in reality, I'm only half joking. That's a fun sport to watch.
Give me the water polo.
I got a new appreciation when the kid played. When I went to see what water polo was really about. First of all, I don't know any sport you have to be in better shape, with the possible exception of soccer. But it's a different skill set. It's more upper body, obviously, and Holy mackerel. That is just nonstop. Because here's what you may or may not realize. I'm sure if you do, if you're listening to this show, you probably realize this, but water polo, they don't touch. I believe it's a 10-foot or 12-foot standard pool.
Oh, I was going to say you can die from drowning, but I guess we're on the same page.
So they're not running along the bottom, man. They're swimming everywhere. It is just brutal. Absolutely a brutal sport. So yes. And the underwater cameras, those are the best.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right, Scotty, let's talk about the games today. We've got another hockey game, another big price. Montreal, Vegas tied up 2-2, heading back to Vegas. You'd think, it's 2-2. Montreal quite possibly could be up 3-1 in this series. So, you think, well, Montreal are probably a small underdog here. Maybe Vegas is what, minus 130, minus 140. Scott, what's Vegas at right now?
About 250.
250. There you go. Minus 250, everybody. Scott, can you explain that to me?
Vegas was minus 500 before the series, so they're sticking to it. But Montreal outshot Vegas in the last game. Vegas won in overtime. These teams look pretty even to me, which is something that we talked about before the series started. We thought that there was value on Montreal, either plus 2.5 games, plus 1.5 games, the over, really just anything involving the Canadians.
Oh.
They've looked the part. They've looked good.
Yep, they absolutely have. You're gonna give me plus 210, plus 205 on the Canadians.
I'll take the plus 1.5 again.
Yeah, that's another play the puck line. Absolutely. There's all kinds of value there. Again, we don't ever want you guys to confuse it that we're saying Vegas is for sure going to lose. I think what we're both saying is Vegas is still more likely to win, but they're not that likely. 250 implies what? They play 5 times, or they play 6 times. Vegas wins 5 of them. No,
they've played 4 times and both teams have won twice.
Right. So to me, that's a huge overlay. Give me the Montreal Canadiens just as
I believe we both agreed before the series started Vegas in 6, yes. But I think Montreal keeps it close.
Yeah, and it still could be Vegas in 6, but I don't like the odds right now of that happening.
Yep, I agree.
All right, very good. And of course, now we are going to get back to the world of basketball. Weird schedule, Scott. They really seem to like the Eastern Conference teams a little bit more, giving them a little extra time off there. Hey, Western Conference, I know that was a tough series, and Clippers, you guys went to 7, but sorry, we're going to have you start 2 days later. And I know that was a tough game you guys played. We're going to have you play 2 days later again. Meanwhile, the East, they're kind of twiddling their thumbs. So we kind of waiting for Wednesday there. They get a full 3 days off. Scott, what's up with that?
I have no idea.
Okay, good chat.
No idea.
Suns, Scott, opened up at 6, 5.5 right now. A little bit of Clips money coming in. 224 is your total, and 224 is where it opened. So not much money on the total at all, but there has been a little bit of Clippers money coming in this situation. Do you agree?
I agree with the move just because of the fact that game 1 was very close. And yet for some reason, Phoenix opened up as 6.5-point favorites on FanDuel, which I believe I mentioned either yesterday. I don't remember where I mentioned it, but the point is that I thought the number was ridiculous on the opener. Spread was 4 in the first game. That looked like a pretty good line. And now they moved the game 2 up to 6. I thought maybe it was because Chris Paul might play. He's not playing. Kawhi's not playing.
He is not playing.
I don't get the 6.5. Having said that, I like the over. Until I see one of these teams actually play good defense. Clippers have gone smaller, and they've been in some track meets. So I'll take the over.
Scott, the Clippers really miss Kawhi Leonard. And, you talk about, obviously that's a fact, but you mainly think of him in terms of his scoring, where him and Paul had scored.
Defensively, they've been a mess.
20 points. They've each scored 20 in, 11 straight games, whatever it was. They each scored 32 straight games. So you miss him on the offensive side, but you really, really miss him on the defensive side, Scott. This is a Clippers defense that, I think you put it very succinctly, Scott. They have been an absolute mess. This is a team that with Leonard, they were much more efficient on the defensive side of the ball. and that's not the way it's worked out. They've been awful. They're giving up a ton of assists. They gave up 31 assists on 49 field goals to the Suns. They were the second best team in the regular season at preventing assists, giving up assists on just 56% of the baskets. So Leonard makes a huge difference there. I just don't see how the Clippers. I don't see how they win. I don't see how they win in Phoenix without him. They may pull off a game on their home court. They may get two, but without Leonard, I don't like the Clippers' chances here. I'll take the Suns and lay the points.
Okay, I'm looking at the over.
Okay, well, I've got a premium on the total, so I'll let you handle that. But I like the Suns to take care of business once again because, first of all, that crowd is flat fired up, Scott.
It's a very, very great home court advantage.
We may have to get a little scramble points at the end. I think it's probably close for most of the game.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, Phoenix pulls away and takes care of business on that one. And we talked a little bit yesterday about the price between the Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. Phoenix is a prohibitive favorite here, Scott, somewhere in the neighborhood of minus 450, minus 430 to close them out. Any value on the Clippers? Do you like the Clippers more than I do in this spot?
We're sticking by what I said in the series. Wait till game 2. If the Clippers lose, bet the Clippers. They've been going down 2-0 in every series.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And you're going to stick with that?
Yep. I think the Suns win on Tuesday.
All right. Solid. We think the Suns win tonight, and that price goes up to what? 600
for the Clippers?
Minus 600 on the Suns.
I would say I'm going to say somewhere in the 5s because you always have to avoid. Speaking on the behalf of sports books, you have to avoid overpricing it because Kawhi might come back, and that might change the entire complexion of the series. So I don't think they're going to simply put it at plus 600. I think it'll be somewhere around plus 500.
Well, it's 450 now.
I think a lot of it depends on if Kawhi's coming back for Game 3.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think you got to let that go. I don't think he's coming back.
I don't think he is either. But I think sports books won't overreact to the 2-0 because they're afraid if Kawhi comes back, they're going to call their pants down.
Fair enough. And he did stay behind to rehab. You know, he didn't travel with the team. There was no chance of a Willis Reed moment or anything ridiculous like that. He stayed home and working on the rehab there. So we'll see what happens. He might come back. It just doesn't look good right now. So, all right, very good, Scott. We have an unusual situation. You and I have covered our topics. We've talked hockey. We've talked basketball. And yet, Scott, we still have about 10 minutes left. We have time to do a whole bunch of baseball picks.
I didn't sign up for this. This is ridiculous. We're actually talking about baseball now?
I was told there'd be no baseball.
That was not in my contract. No, I'm just joking. If you follow the YouTube channel, you know that we used to do a daily baseball show as well. So we don't have anything against baseball. It's just solely based on the fact that the playoffs are the playoffs. I know you're at the end of the day a bigger basketball and a bigger hockey fan than you are a baseball fan. Correct, but baseball's been good to me this year. So baseball been very, very good to me. So we've got some interesting games here. We've got some interesting series. A couple of pitching matchups, Scott, that if the beginning of the season you would have been, this is going to be really, really good. Like Kershaw and Snell going at it. Yeah, you kidding me? You got Oviedo against Skubal tomorrow. And then you've got Oviedo against Skubal. And so there's not much to say really about Kershaw and Snell because as you and I do this show right now early in the morning, there's no line on that game. So we can't really get involved with Kershaw and Snell. Kershaw will be favored. If I had to guess, I would say 160, 170. Yeah, he's been getting some pretty good prices lately. Snell's been not good, Scott. That's why I'm saying it'll probably be like 170 or so. Yeah, you and I have talked about that ad nauseum. He's been a good fade, and usually a good price is involved on the other side. So let's look. All right, Scott, you brought it up. Let's talk about Skubal and Oviedo for the Cardinals. The Cardinals
Scott, you would think playing the lowly Tigers, they'd be, by the way, the newly last place Tigers.
Congrats to Minnesota on that.
The Twins were able to climb out of the cellar based on their 11-inning victory there over the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati Reds allowed themselves to be shut down in extra innings by Matt Shoemaker. So you certainly get what you deserve right there, Reds. Thanks for nothing. So Oviedo, pitcher for St. Louis, not my favorite at all, going against Tarek Skubal. I believe I called him Tyreek Skubal for much of his career. So
Tarek, Tyreek, whatever. He's not very good.
Well, if your name is Reichel, if they go Reichel, Reichel, whatever.
I've gotten all of them before. Whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't make you feel great.
No, but at some point you just accept it and move on. Because
Really?
That's how I go about it.
You don't fight it?
No, because usually if you have to remind the person more than once, they're never going to remember.
I'll remind them every time, because I've got the classic name. I've got the H in my last name for no apparent reason. Mm-hmm. So that people have invented all kinds of things for that letter.
I have not called you Stein one time.
No, I get a lot of Steins. I've got Steele before.
Okay, that's a nice little adaptation.
I don't even know how that works in English. I don't know what Scandinavian country we're
the Ellis Island.
Right. So Oviedo's got 5.28 ERA, 1.46 WHIP. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Tarek Skubal, 4.48 ERA, almost an identical WHIP, 1.42. Total on this one is 9, being played in Comerica. Little value here on the over, Scott. Is that too easy of a situation?
I can't look at the over. As much as tempted as I am by it, just because how bad these pitchers are. You talked about the fact it's in Comerica, and we know Detroit can't hit. I can't take an over there. I can't do it. I do like the Cardinals, though. I think that there is value on the Cardinals because I know Oviedo has been awful lately, and I know that Miami can't hit, but Oviedo did pitch really well in his last outing, 7 innings and no runs, but once again, that is against Miami, so I don't know if you can actually read into it. But Detroit, we knew going into the year, this is going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They're 12 under, which is actually not awful.
No.
But, I mean, if I told you going into the year you would get Arenado when healthy, Goldschmidt when healthy, and a Cardinals team, and you're only laying 115 against Detroit, you'd probably take it automatically.
You're right. But let me tell you something, Scott. They
have not been good.
This is a St. Louis team that has really struggled to score. They have plated more than 2 runs just twice in their last 9 games.
That's why I don't like the over.
In those 9 games, they've averaged 2.1 runs per game. Meanwhile, here's a case for taking the over. Detroit actually hitting the ball pretty well, Scott. They have averaged, a little over 5 runs over their last 7, 5.15 runs over their last 7. So I think there's some value. 4 of their last 5 has gone over the total. Maybe team total over for the Tigers is the play here, Scott. We get that at 4.5. You have any interest in that? They are the home team, however. So if they're ahead, obviously they're not going to get that 9th at bat.
I'm just staying away from the over. At the end of the day, it's still Comerica, and Detroit's lineup is just awful. They've been better lately, but right. I just can't do it.
Okay. All right. So that's a pass for you?
Yeah, it's a pass.
What do you got you like?
Well, looking at the card here, I feel like we ought to talk about Tampa because they have a wonder kid who's showing up for the first time.
That's right.
Wander Franco. So they did their wonder kid.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I was working all night on that one. But you got Kittredge on the mound against Rodriguez. Rodriguez has been awful this season. But Tampa got swept by Seattle in a 4-game series.
That's brutal.
Not good. Not good. It's also a very important series for this one because they're going to be competing for the standings because I believe Boston is half a game behind Tampa now, or they're tied for first place. They're definitely within a game of each other.
Now, let me see here real quick. While you talk about this game, I'll look.
But the point is that Kittredge is kind of an opener, so you expect a little bit of long relief in there. Mostly going to be whether or not Tampa can actually take advantage of Rodriguez, who's been awful. 6.21 ERA. He's been terrible. Kittredge, very, very good. 5-1, 1.34 ERA, but only 33.2 innings. So he's not going to eat much length. Boston is actually in first place by
a half.
Game.
Yep.
And Tampa has lost 6 in a row, including 4 straight to Seattle.
Look at those Yankees lurking back there in third place, buddy.
Yeah, those Yankees are working back 4.5 behind. I don't really care. A long way to go. But
get ready to call the cops on those 2 future tickets you have. That's what I'm saying to you.
No, because I could always hedge it on the Yankees. It's all good. But anyway, looking at the actual spot here, I'll go with Tampa team total over. I'm just going to fade Rodriguez.
I think that's solid. I think that's a very good play. All right. Oh, we got time for one more. Scott, it's
got to talk about one of our staples on the channel. You got Flexen on the mound.
Yeah, a very, very, very profitable pitcher, Chris Flexen with Seattle. He's in an unusual spot, Scotty. He's a favorite. Not only is he a favorite, he's a big favorite over Colorado. Seattle was the home team. Chris Flexen opened up minus 145. He's now pretty much minus 160. Break up the Mariners, buddy. Break up the Mariners.
He goes against 160. I'm sure Colorado's got a terrible pitcher on the mound.
Yeah, you'd be right. He is going up against Kyle Freeland of the Colorado Rockies. Scott, what's the best thing you can say about Kyle Freeland's season so far?
I'd say that the name fits the performance because he gives up a lot of free land to a lot of base runners.
That's not bad.
I came up with that now. I actually think that sounds pretty good.
5 starts, 9.58 ERA, 2.27 WHIP.
I've taken team total overs against him pretty much all year long, and it's just printing at this point.
I don't see how you pass that up. It's going to be 8 is your total, so it's going to be 4.5, 3.5. Take Seattle over the 4.5. I like that play.
That's how I'm looking at it.
All right, very good, Scott. And now it's time for America's favorite segment. It's time for you and I to put our heads together, come up with our very best play of the day. If you had to put it all in the middle, if you had to bet all your chips on one play, this is the one to do it, Scott. It is time for Bet the Farm. Well, Scott, we had a little farm play yesterday. We had the Cincinnati Reds team total over 4.5. How did that do?
Never in doubt, extra innings win.
That is right, Scott. That is right. We had to wait for extras. We had to sweat out bases loaded for the Twins in the 9th, but we were able to get out of it. And the Reds came out and put up 2 runs in at the top of the 10th. Congratulations to all you farmers out there. That was cash money. So, Scott, real quick, we were about out of time. What's it going to be, buddy?
A play that is going to be the Bet the Farm's going to be on the Astros on the run line. They've won 8 in a row. Greinke's great. Pablo Lopez is not. Houston has scored at least 6 runs in 7 of the last 8. We're taking the Astros on the run line.
That's it. Greinke's been money for us this year. Take the Astros on the run line. They are scoring runs like nobody's business. So thanks, as always, for tuning us in today. Thanks for you guys on the YouTubes for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. For myself, for Scott, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winners and Whiners Radio.